scripture that you will ever read is a bastardization of African knowledge. Finished.
They know they can control you by religion. That is how they do it.
It should be on spirituality. All of us believe in God. But religion, it is made by human beings.
How can you pretend that you as human being, you know what you say? You know what? Who are you? Boys of 4 years, 5 years were shown on TV being trained to go and shoot and kill because they are shooting an infidel.
The subject at hand, religion. We live with it. We live with it. So it is a present reality. Both past, present, and it's not yet about to go away. So the better we really understand it to the fullest, because it affects our life directly. We are blessed to have an expert in this subject, Dr. Alex Nkabahona, as our main presenter tonight. Dr. Alex Nkabahona is a senior lecturer in the Department of Religion and Peace Studies, Makerere University. And I see many OBs here from Makerere.
He's my teacher.
Okay.
He taught me human rights.
And he has a background in philosophy and religious studies. He is a graduate of Catholic University, Louvain in Belgium. Yes, and a consultant and a researcher in human rights and conflict issues. Yes. So this makes him the best person to present this subject, especially that he engages in it occasionally, especially teaching it at the university. So dear sir, you are highly welcome, and I beg that we welcome him with a very big hand clap. On my right is our father, Professor Edward Kakonge. He's a seriously educated fellow, being a retired professor of biochemistry, and was a senior lecturer in Makerere University and other universities, and also a government official at ministerial level some years back, etc. Otherwise, we cannot end. So, Professor, you're welcome. Let's also clap for him. The next panelist is Mr. Agaba Archibald Kuranga, one of the most famous Pan-Africanists. He is a farmer and a successful farmer at that. He is a Pan-Africanist and a researcher. So that combination is also important in giving us very, very valid information on religion, especially the fact that he is a researcher. You're welcome, Mr. Agaba. Let's also clap for him. Then the next panelist is Mr. Patum Kasati. He is the executive director of HALEA. HALEA is the Humanist Association for Leadership, Equity and Accountability. It's an organization. We have usually partnered with him whenever there is need. He holds a degree in economics from Makerere University. Because yes, but also he has a degree in law. He has that degree, and he has also a master's of commercial law. He is a master's of commercial law student, and importantly, he is also a humanist and a human rights advocate. We are very sure that he will give us a very interesting version of what religion is. I beg that we also receive him with a very big hand clap. Now, in the special way, we are going to have the keynote communication from Dr.
Alex Kabona, and after that we shall see how we proceed in the order that I will announce later. So our dear presenter, it's now my pleasure, and I'm so humbled to invite you to speak to the Pan-Africanists. Thank you. The moderator, my colleagues on the panel, Mr. Katomu Kasa, Mr. Achbar Dagawa Kakuranga, I understand there was Madame Amanda Mugambo, Professor Kakonge, distinguished members of the Pan-African Club and the Humanist Association for Leadership, Equity and Accountability, ladies and gentlemen. I'm as honored as I am so humbled to have been given this opportunity to present and discuss a topic of such great interest to all of us: Africa's development, with special focus on the role and contribution of religion. I observe, however, that discussing the nexus between religion, development, and Africa is too wide a topic to do it justice in only 15 minutes, which is the maximum time that my colleague Ngabrano communicated to me, and emphasizing that I must observe it religiously. I will try my best in the spirit of Pan-Africanism. The approach I have chosen may not be the most conventional, but I hope it serves the purpose of arousing intellectual debate on the subject. And this is what I call the unconventional approach. My presentation and discussion is based on an interrogative assumption, namely, religion has potential to inspire and spur development, particularly in Africa. It has not. Where is the problem? Now, based on this assumption, I try now to discuss the topic, hopefully in 15 minutes or less, under the following aspects. I present one thesis and two questions. The first, the thesis: Africa is the most religious continent, but also the least developed. Now, this phenomenon clearly slams the door in the face of my assumption, but at the same time raises the central question of this discussion, which is my next point of presentation, namely, what role has religion played, if any, in Africa's development, or should we call it underdevelopment? Three, what more needs to be done to make religion play its crucial role in Africa's human development? And then with those kind of short discussions, I will make a very brief conclusion of my presentation. First then, the first aspect or thesis: Africa, the most religious continent, but also the least developed. Now, the question we need to unravel here, if we can, is what is the correlation between being religious and living in a poverty-stricken continent? Now, even with a positive human development index outlook for developing countries in the 2013 Human Development Report, African countries, with the exception of a few, I think South Africa and Botswana, are still at the bottom of the ladder. This has been the trend since the first United Nations Human Development Report in 1990. Now, meanwhile, Africa's rich resources and spiritual resources have been here for as long as the Homo sapiens human species. Similarly, Christianity, Islam, and other foreign religions have been embraced by Africans well over a century in some countries, and even more in other countries. In all this, I also wish to point out the inner dynamics and paradigm shifts in the way religion has been propagated and practiced over the centuries. From so-called animistic African traditional religious practices with no written scriptures, no fixed places of worship, etc., to the revelation religions of Christianity, Islam, and others, with claim to revealed holy scriptures and fixed places and days of worship, and today, new religious movements and sects whose trademark is almost synonymous with tele-evangelism, street preaching, and claimed performing miracles such as healing, wealth creation, production of babies, acquisition of good jobs, winning political offices, etc., all through the power of prayer, but at a cost. So these are the dynamics that we have gone through from the traditional, simple religious practice to current tele-evangelism approach to religion. And at the cost, as I'm saying, by that, I'm going to ask you to don't be distracted by this paper, to look at this. You may pass it around. This is the cost of the dynamics that we have undergone in the centuries. And we want to find out whether actually this might be contributing to Africa's underdevelopment. In the final analysis, religion today has become a commodity for sale. At the same time, we see a resurgence and desire to go back to the traditional practices, witchcraft, among others, resulting into syncretism, if not back to pagan roots or paganism practices. In all this, individuals, families, and communities seem to share one ultimate goal, namely the search for well-being, holiness through the intervention of some supernatural powers. So what is religion? And how does the way one defines or understands religion and practices that religion that he understands impact on human development? What is development in this case? Are the religious dynamics and paradigm shifts I have mentioned facilitate or impede the Africans' search for well-being and holiness? Has the African found himself or herself composed and found her well-being, or he is lost in, I don't know whether this is the right word, in the quagmire of the shifting grounds of religiosity dynamics, some of which he or she may not even have control over? Which brings us to the second and fourth segment of our discussion. What role has religion played, if any, in Africa's development or underdevelopment? First, let's look at the concept of religion. What is religion? Now, for most people, I pick this from a scholar, Ellis. For most people in the world, including in Africa, religion refers to a belief in the existence of an invisible world, distinct but not separate from the visible one, which is home to spiritual beings that are deemed to have effective powers over the material world. Thus, in this belief, religion is key, it is important in people's lives because it facilitates the vital connectivity between the spiritual and the physical or material worlds. Now, Africans in particular believe that for man to attain holiness or well-being, this connectivity and relationship must be guarded jealously. Enemies or acts that would cause disharmony could bring disaster in the physical world, specifically negatively affecting man. The opposite is also believed to be true, that maintaining good harmony and relationship brings about good tidings or well-being. In relation to that, what is human development in that context? Human development, according to the United Nations Development Program, is about creating an environment in which people can develop their full potential and lead productive, creative lives. Thus, in accord with their needs and interests. I want to emphasize that aspect of productive and creative lives, because that is what religion, or most religions, should actually inspire and inspire in people. But when we look at different aspects or different religions, there is a possibility that actually, rather than inspiring people to productivity, it actually hinders that inspiration, and therefore the outcome of abject poverty in most cases, especially in the African continent. Development in this case thus refers to people's resources beyond any purely material or technocratic aspects. It is now common understanding that most policymakers today agree that sustainable development can be achieved only if people build on their own resources. These include not only intellectual and social resources, but also spiritual ones, if and when these are available. In effect, we are saying people's spiritual resources, derived from their religious worldview, may hold the key to their human development or well-being. Therefore, the reason why religion should be included within the broad concept of development, because it provides a powerful motivation for many people to act in the way they do. It equips many of the world's people with the moral guidance and with the will to improve their lives. However, people's religious outlook of the world would also work as a hindrance to their human development. Here we can contrast two religious traditions to demonstrate the two sides of religion in respect of inspiring and spurring human development or becoming a hindrance. The first case, we pick it from Christianity, we could pick it also from Islam. So Christianity and its teaching on creation and the role of man in this creation. Here we pick two texts among many other texts, one from the Old Testament and one from the New Testament. In the creation narrative, Genesis 1, specifically verses 26 to 31, according to this text, it was on the 5th day. You don't have to take it literally. It was on the 5th day. This is how it is written in the scriptures. And that's what you always hear the pastors say, Bible egamba. The Bible says, and then they quote you. They quote the text. So it was on the 5th day of God's work, after God had created everything else and seen that all was good, he said, let us make man, male and female, in our own image and likeness. Underline that, let us make man in our own image and likeness. Meaning that man is created for human dignity because he's created in God's image and likeness. Then in verse 28, God blessed them and said, be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it. This is a powerful text because I interpret it to mean a call and challenge to man to be creative and innovative in enhancing his well-being and wholeness while still here on earth. Now, by using the resources that God has given him, intellect, will, and all the natural resources. Now, adherence to Christianity in Europe and America, although most of them later largely abandoned religion, heeded this call and challenge, and results are there to show. Scientific innovations, and as a result, the high development index these countries record each. The human development index these countries record each passing year. The other text is from the New Testament, John 10:10. I have come so that you may have life and have it to its fullness. A powerful message that has lately become the catch verse, especially for the emerging new religious movements, the Pentecostals, compared to the more traditional churches that still preach humility and poverty as avenues to heaven. You may recall again the Bible text, blessed are you, the poor, yours is the kingdom of heaven. In Matthew chapter 5, or the Beatitudes. Now the message in John 10:10 is clear. Jesus came to liberate his people from the chains of poverty and want. He wishes everybody to live a life to his fullness. In practical terms, now this is where the modern pastors have picked this message. In practical terms, the followers are tasked, this is where they pay the price, to contribute their pastor's wealth creation and their own through generous donations to God. As we know, this approach has both positive and negative effects. Now we compare this with an example drawn from the African traditional religious belief and practice. Among the Bambuti people, I think these are the Batwa, who live on the borders of Rwanda, Uganda, and Congo, they strongly believe that God is the origin of everything and provides everything, including babies. God has something to do with the pregnancy. For example, it is reported that it is a common practice that when a Bambuti woman gets pregnant, she prepares food, takes it to the forest, and at some designated place, it will be a rock or near a bank of a real stream or under a tree. She kneels down and offers the food to God, saying, God from whom I have received this baby, take and eat. Now, while this may be a good religious spiritual resource and practice, namely acknowledging that man is a co-creator with God in the production of children, the strong belief that God provides everything could be a hindrance to their creativity and innovation to improve their well-being. Again, the results are there to show. Today, many Bambuti people still depend on what nature provides. The key question then becomes, do religious and spiritual resources produce a type of knowledge that is or could be relevant to development? From the above comparative analysis, the answer is both. Yes, it does, but also not necessarily that it spurs creativity and innovation. In the final analysis, each religious resource needs to be analyzed and treated in its own right. In each case, it is important to explore the concept of development through the prism or lens of the respective religion, Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, and so on. Having said that, on the whole, the notions of development and religion have so much in common. They both contain a vision of an ideal world and of the place of humans therein. In that sense, it is not difficult to find examples of the ways in which people's religious understanding of the world may have a bearing on development. And I give a few examples. The traditional Hindu idea of humankind, for example, emphasizes harmony with the living environment. It is almost similar to the African understanding or view of the world. This easily translates into a view that economic growth should be integral to the well-being of the environment as a whole. Similarly, Muslims believe that the ultimate aim of life is to return humanity to its creator in its original state of purity. That calls for working towards that goal of returning humanity to its creator in its original purity. In the African traditional regions, the pursuit of balance and harmony in relations with the spiritual world is paramount. In that sense, one can easily draw several life principles from that worldview of the Africans. For example, an injury to one is an injury to all, equated with the philosophy of interdependence. That is, man and nature related in the environment and also related to the spiritual world, in all of the three interdependent for their well-being or survival. And out of that, we generate also the coexistence philosophy. I am because we are, and since we are, therefore I am, John Mbiti. Similarly, charismatic Christians, of which there are large numbers in Africa today, believe that personal transformation, inner change, is the key to transformation of society. We have heard of the Puritans in the United States, the darling subject of His Excellency the President when he's addressing especially religious congregations, trying to encourage them to learn from the Puritans in the way they influenced economics, policy, culture in the United States of America. All in all, these ideas help to shape people's views of development. They stem from intellectual traditions associated with particular religions that have been formed by local histories. In more practical terms, what is there to show that religion has contributed to human development in Africa? As I conclude, this subject needs not much labor to explain. Most religious institutions have been involved in the following key areas of development: providing services at different levels and intensities, and I shall just list a few areas. First and foremost, most have been involved in the spiritual well-being, of course, education and health. More recently, attempts by religious institutions to expand the base to include banking and agribusiness. There is also an awakening to tap into the tourism and leisure industry as well. Now, those who have ventured into these services, the results are not disappointing. Finally, what needs to be done to make religion play more efficiently its critical role in human development? First, on the negative front, there are weaknesses that must be rectified, among others. I mentioned the following. All religious institutions or religions should work towards minimizing on the fanatical and fundamentalist tendencies that may largely be responsible for the eruption of violent conflicts, both intra and inter-religious or between religious followers and governments. We have examples: Nigeria, Sudan, Somalia. Uganda too has had its share of intra and inter-religious conflicts and fanaticism. Two, there is a need to avoid abuse of religion by exploiting followers by religious leaders. Three, there is a need to work for more harmony within different religious affiliations to avoid further splinter groups or formation of breakaway sects. On the positive side, these are the areas that need strengthening, among others. One, religious leaders to play more central roles in providing moral guidance and exemplified life. Two, take more active roles in conflict mitigation and peace building in a world torn apart by conflicts and violence. Conflict and the general absence of peace, as we know, hinder development. 3 or 4, keep and guard their position in society as mouthpieces of the most vulnerable in society. Here, religious leaders should never allow themselves to be compromised by powers that be in forms of incentives or bribes. And finally, consolidate and expand the services to improve people's well-being and holiness. In conclusion, my assumption at the beginning can be proven as a correct assumption. I have endeavored to demonstrate that religion has such potential to inspire and spur human development, but that it can also be a hindrance. Both aspects need to be looked into, working to consolidate on the positive resources while working to minimize on the negative aspects. I thank you for your attention, and I thank Governor for not stopping me after exceeding, I think, 15 minutes. Thank you very much.
From Mr. Katom Kasa in the next minutes that he knows very well.
Thank you very much, the chairperson and moderator. Allow me to hammer myself and welcome the professors of knowledge, my mentor, Professor Kakonge, Dr. Chimera, Dr. Alex, and my colleague. Thank you for honoring this invitation and being part of it. So in Africa, there are 3 most dominant religions, namely the ATR, Christianity, and Islam. Now, very briefly, I want to attempt to define a religion, just add a fresh from the definition he made. Now, a gentleman called James D. Wolfson is the former president of the World Bank, made the following remark, which I took as a definition in the contemporary way of defining a religion. He said that religion is an omnipresent, seamless part of daily life, taking an infinite variety of forms that are part of the distinctive quality of each community. Religion could thus not be seen as something apart and personal. It is rather a dimension of life that suffuses whatever people do. And that is it, as I was saying. In Africa, whatever we do generally is about, it depicts religion. John S. Mbiti, we talked about him, defined religion this way from the African perspective. And he said that in African thinking, there is no division between religion and life, body and soul. It is a religion that colors the understanding, the Africans, of the universe. It's the religion that forms the philosophical understanding behind African myths, customs, traditions, beliefs, morals, actions, and social relations. That was John S. Mbiti. He's trying to define religion in a way Africans understand it. Actually here, I'm going to add very fast and say that Africans, the way I've observed them since I'm one African, 311, Africans, we eat religiously, we dance religiously, we trade religiously, and organize our societies religiously. Sometimes some of you go to club, some of us go and dance a bit. You may be surprised to hear Yes Veranange, a gospel song in a nightclub. Not so. Because it's all about religion. It's all about religion everywhere, even eating. I was raised in a Catholic family before I abandoned. And I became an atheist, who is a humanist also. Every day I was told that I have to make a sign before you what? Before you eat food. You know, that's the kind of thing. So that's how religion is. We eat religion, we dance religion, we sleep religion, everything about religion. So, when you look at the anthropologist, and I know the doctor is in that department, you know, people understand society and culture. They will tell you that there's nothing much we can do because this is part of us. So, now, if you are going to talk about development, which I won't go so much into depth because you define it very, very clearly. One thing I identified when I was doing this research is that when you look at all books and all articles about regional development, they are emphasizing the following issues. One, they are saying the region and development can be looked in terms of state control. State control. Look at how these politicians manipulate us using religion. They are saying, look at class formation. They are going to say, you the Catholics, we have to be the vice president. The Catholics, the Protestants are the ones in the, class formation. And look at capital accumulation. Some of you have done this. Capital accumulation. Look at the banks, the savings, and all that stuff. Look at the modes of production, ideology, hegemony, ethnicity, regionalism, and patronage. If you want to look at those angles, then you are going to understand development versus religion, how the two influence each other. So, to analyze religion and how does it contribute to development, or as they put it, under development of Africa, we need to understand all these issues clearly. Now, there are things which we must also note very, very, very urgently. Number one, we must find the correlation between religion and development. And Africans are the most religious people. But Africa is the most underdeveloped continent in the world. Why? Let me answer that question. I won't go into that. Number two, when you look at the Human Development Index, the recent one, it's called the Human Development Index. The following countries were ranked among the most religious, but again the most poor. Number one, Sierra Leone. Number two, Congo. Number three, Malawi. Number four, our own, Uganda. The most religious, but the most poor. And then, in the same Human Development Index, they are listing 20 developed countries, and I picked only 4, including our own country. And in the same list, they are also picking the most 20 developed countries, which ironically are less religious. Ironically, the most developed countries are less religious, or you can say they are secular. Number one among them is Norway. Number two, Sweden, Japan, some of France, and then Denmark. You can imagine that they are most developed, but again they are leaning towards secularism more. So the question again comes, which I posed: what's wrong? How do we correlate between being poor and being too religious? Is there some connection? When you look at the figures here, because these are not mine, they are authoritatively posted everywhere on the internet. Now, the other questions also I'm asking, that does it mean that religion somehow helps Africans to understand the hardships they go through and be able to appreciate them, be able to be meek, because the Bible tells us to be meek like a what? Like a sheep, not so. Does religion somehow create this kind of thing so that we are supposed to be subordinates, be meek, and then we can survive? Number two, how does this correlation play out when comparing to developed countries, and especially those countries that practice Islam? Because also Islam is what? Religion. Now we are asking, how about the Islamic countries? Are countries practicing Islam doing well than those practicing other religions? Because we may find that some religion perhaps has a problem, another is a bit better. So you are going to discuss this thing. How about in religious countries that are Islam? Are they doing better anyway in terms of development? Now, when I looked again, doing some more research, I discovered something very interesting about religion and corruption. Religion and corruption. It's up to you to, again, dissect this. And they are saying the most corrupt countries in the world today, they are showing them. And number one is Somalia. You'll be surprised, by the way. You can go and check the most 7 corrupt countries. Just today, just go and check. Number one is Somalia. Number 2, North Korea. Number 3, Afghanistan. Number 4, Sudan. Number 5, South Sudan. Number 6, Libya. Number 7, Iraq. There was no Uganda among the most 7. I was shocked. But they gave 7, perhaps it's among the most 10. I don't know. But for me, my interest was looking at the numbers and these countries, and I was asking myself, and these countries are very religious. Just look at them. Because we're talking about development. Of course, development, let me make it much more simpler. That when we talk about development, as the doctor was saying, we're talking about personal development, the way we are living, the way we are eating, the way we are schooling, the infrastructure and all that. Yes, no one can deny that the religion has done some good. All religious organizations have done some good works. I went to Catholic schools most of my time, and they are very good schools. We cannot deny that. But I will point out the challenges again in those schools. Anyway, so we are saying yes, there have been some things done, good things done by religious institutions. There are good things that have been done by religious institutions. And of course, faith-based organizations in Africa. And they have caused development. But I have a challenge with religion again. Look at the scourge of HIV/AIDS today. And look at the preachings of the Catholic Church. What are they saying? Don't use condoms. And they are condemning these condoms. Of course, I work with young people, teenagers, as an NGO worker. And what the challenge we are finding is that parents cannot talk with their children about sex because somehow our culture, which is also religious and indoctrinated, has been made to make sure that we don't talk to our children about sex. Now the church comes in and says, no use of condoms. Don't even talk about it. They are saying, abstain until you are married, not so. So without condoms, people are getting HIV. When we are coming to talk about condoms, they are saying you are or if you're already spoiled. The Catholic Church is against the use of what? Condoms. Some of us are saying no. Now, look at our neighbors. Am I calling them the neighbors? Our good religion also, the Islamic religion. I have to confess, I was once in an Islamic University of Uganda, IHEU, briefly. But the challenge I found when I was studying Arabic, which I studied, and Islam, is that their teachings sometimes encourages violation of rights. And I will be confident enough to say this. For example, look at child marriages. Someone is saying that once a girl begins menstruation, can get married. If I'm wrong, you can correct me with a verse. If you can read it. Because these are the things they are talking about. Look at the way they are treating women. So, religions that don't respect human dignity, that put classes between people, as if we were in India. This sect, this whatever is not good, this is not clean. To me, that's the wrong religion. Even when it may promote some other good virtues. Now, there are some other questions which I wanted to point out. For example, look at the way, if you look at our Uganda, by the way, in East Africa, they are giving a survey recently that East Africa, Uganda is the most religious country in East Africa. And they are giving examples, which I can also point out. Look at how many street preachers we have. As if it's a job to preach. I don't know whether it's a job. Perhaps someone may educate me that they are, because I may be ignorant. But look at how many we have in Kampala. I've gone to Nairobi, I've gone to these other countries, just in East Africa here. You don't find these numbers here. Everywhere these slums we have, a church is mushrooming. Churches are growing just like mushrooms every day. Whatever you pastor is a church. Is the church a business or a God-serving institution? So, we have to ask these questions. What's wrong with Uganda? Why do we have more churches than the worshippers?
And than where they came from.
Exactly, than even where they came from. Of course, we have rosaries in our cars. You drive with the words, Jesus loves me, God is in my... everything. So, you can look at all the things. Of course, they are all showing you how religious we are as a country. Now, I have some dangers I want to point out very briefly about religion. Number one, what I've discovered in my lifetime, at 36 years, chairman, I know the professor is my father there, but this is what I've observed in my simple lifetime. Number one, that religion creates fear in our brains. Fear, and I'll explain. Religion creates, actually, it thrives on fear and manipulation. That they will tell you about two things. When I was growing up, they told me there was something called purgatory. that there was a space somewhere up in space, and there was fire burning. People were doing bad things. Okay, and someone is putting there, fire. So someone is doing that job daily. So fear. So I grew up fearing that if I do anything bad, I will go to purgatory. I will go to that burning fire. Now they don't end there. They will tell you purgatory or whatever, or hell, whatever it is. Then they tell you that there is another good place called heaven. Those who are doing well, like the professor has done very well, those who are doing very well, they are going to go into that corner there, and they'll be singing the whole day, the whole night. I don't know whether they'll be bathing or eating, I don't know. Someone who has gone there should tell us how that thing is. But I must tell you, I don't want to go to that heaven anyway. I don't want anything to do with heaven. Now, they tell us those things were there. So we grew up fearing to do anything bad. Or to do so much good so that we go to fear. Number 2, indoctrination. In our schools, we have been taught these things, to recite them. You recite a prayer without asking a question, the meaning of that prayer. And if you dare ask, you'll be caned. I always give an example when I was caned when I was about 8 years for stealing ostia. I don't know whether that's the right pronunciation. Eucharist. Because as a young child, I don't know even these things. As a young child, I saw people. Let me tell you how they told me that I was a thief of that thing. I saw people lining up to go and take it because I was in P1. I also lined up. This good father gave it to me. I ate it. Scuba, they had seen me and they gave me chiboko, my friend, that I was not qualified to eat it. So from that time I began asking questions whether God was discriminating some of us because we are young from eating his body. So those things are very, very fundamental. Number 3, when you look at these religious books, I know you have your own views and I respect them. But for me, as a shamanist really, I found some of these teachings very wanting. If you tell me to hate someone because of his orientation, for example, I may be heterosexual, but why do you want me to hate someone because it's different from me? Why? And the people are promoting it. This one, we can argue so much on this. Because are based on tenets of religion, mostly. So I have a problem there. Now, the Quran and the Bible all emphasize that they are the best religions. Actually, you're going to find most of the time that someone is going to tell you that I don't want that religion because it's a wrong one. Sometimes when you read these books, some of us who are not believers are categorized as infidels. Then I begin asking, how do you get the yardstick telling me that I'm an infidel because I don't believe in what you believe in? So it's very dangerous. Because why should brothers kill themselves because of something they don't believe in? Or someone is believing in and now someone else is not believing in it. The other thing I want to point out also, look at the job allocations in Uganda. I have seen applications, call for applications in newspapers, where they are saying, your local pastor must recommend you. Your local pastor, to me, as a lawyer and as a humanist and a human rights defender, this is wrong. Because why do you say some jobs, someone must recommend you as a pastor? What if I don't believe in anything to do with that pastor? Or in religion? I want to get a job. So it means some of us who are religious won't get jobs in Uganda. That's what it means. Look at the way we are registering the voter, it's called what? National registration. They are asking us to put our religions. So sometimes I wonder why. There's no space for some of us who don't believe in those things. It means we want to register. Now, when children go to school, they are asked, what's your religion? What do they say if they don't have any religion? So there's a problem there. Look at the issues of violence. Because we want to look at development and religion. The religion sometimes promotes, and I'm saying sometimes promotes violence, especially if it's abused. Look at the Boko Haram in northern Nigeria, and how it is affecting the whole country. Look at our resistance army in Uganda. Not so. The man is saying, Lord, resistance army. Is flaunting God to kill people. Look at the Al-Shabaab, of course, in Somalia and what they are doing in Kenya. and all that. The child sacrifices. By the way, don't look at only these imported religions to Africa. Look at also our own homegrown. Our own homegrown, the African traditional religion also promoting child sacrifice somehow, that they want blood, not so. Yes, in those shrines. So religion's forms can be dangerous if you are not so careful about it. There are some books in the Bible which I found very challenging as I wind up. Number one, the book of Exodus, Leviticus, and Deuteronomy. I call upon you to go and read it very well. In HSC, I was doing CRA, Christian Religious Education. I found these books wanting. A book which promotes violence. Someone is going to say the New Testament came and wiped away everything. But someone is still using that. An eye for an eye and all that. Religion, if abused, may also be dangerous. Now, we have said that sometimes people are killing themselves because of religion. Sometimes they're hating each other because of religion and all that. For example, recently I was watching a program on UBC. My friend who works on UBC, I think, has moved. And UBC was showing us the ADF and their history. This was on TV. And the ADF were using the madrasa classes to recruit young boys of 4 years, 5 years were shown on TV being trained to go and shoot and kill because they are shooting an infidel. In the name of Allah. Now, I won't believe that Allah is killing people. Look at our political parties with due respect. Some of them, the chairman, are highly based on religious backgrounds. JEMA, I will not fear to talk about it.
What the major one?
JEMA party. That's an Islam party, kind of, if you look at its roots. I cannot not to say that. Now, look at the GP, my brothers, the Catholic ones. Yes, it's a fact, you may shy away from it. Yeah? So, now, that DP takes over. How safe are we that the Catholic people won't take control of this country? Yes, assuming that Germany takes over, and we're having a Sharia in this country. So, why do you want to combine politics, state and church, state and religion? So my call, as I wind up, is separate church, state. Separation must be one of the most important things to be done. Lastly, I'm giving recommendations. I won't talk about Zambia and other countries because of time. I'm going to give the following recommendations. Number one, the role of women. Women, those who are religious, must be given a platform. I don't see anything wrong with having a women bishop in this country from a Catholic church. I'm of the view that if Catholicism is a religion of transparency, equality, they should allow women to lead them. That's one thing.
It has a constitution.
Yes, whatever their constitution. And the same would apply to Muslims. Why don't you pray with women? What's wrong with women? When you are sleeping with them, having sex and having children with them. Number two, transform the transformers as a way forward. I'm thinking that the pastors themselves must be transformed. I was supposed to give you examples from Uganda. Of course, the pastors, we are going to talk about them when you come on the floor. The narrative is a woman who can build a church of 7 billion shillings got from the church. If now they can collect 7 billion shillings from people to build a church worth that, what's wrong with making Namuteli and other pastors who pay taxes? So I'm proposing that churches must begin paying taxes from their tithes. After all, we don't have the money. Our schools must also reform. They don't need to teach our children all those indoctrination. There must be a separation between religion and education. Why do you indoctrinate our children? As a way forward, we must find a way of making the education system sober, so that it's secular. People can decide for themselves. And as I wind up, I must say, religion must help people by telling them how to think and not what to think. Otherwise, today they are telling us what to think, not how to think. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. So thank you very much, Katum Kasa, for the excellent work. Now, so shall we have Professor say something, and then after the next one.
Thank you very much. For me, I'm a scientist. And I'm religious. But I want to tell you, really, to me, any religion of whatever description which discriminates against women is a false religion. For the simple reason, we took the crucifixion, which was true. It was there. That event was there. It is not just concoction. When you look at the crucifixion of Jesus, who were there with him? It was the women. Who were early to go and check? It was women. And where were the men? Many of them, some of them, as you know, denied even him at the crucial point. So what I really want, what I've heard for you, and the people which I've heard for you, they are very arrogant of religion. Not what I would call the authentic religion. Because to me, the authentic religion is a religion which turns your heart from when you're going astray, you turn and you're led towards good. You are originally pointed towards evil and doing bad, and then you turn, you start doing good. And in his presentation, I find some, to me, which I think are fundamentals of religion. Search for wholeness, being a complete person, an enriched person. And when you are enriched, you don't hold on to things, because you know these things come and go. They are not an issue. Then also, search for meaning. That's really, to me, that's the aspect of religion. You search for wholeness, you search for meaning, you care about other human beings. If you are religious, you care about other human beings. You don't use other human beings as toys. That to using other human beings as a toy, as a tool, as something to use is really obscene and a denial of the dignity of a human being. So really, I could go on and go on, but I want to stop. And really, as I summarize, what I've heard, a bit of religion, but a bit of paradox. Many of our pastors, actually I wouldn't be surprised when hell, if hell is there. There will be many pastors, many bishops, even the politics in that hell. Because they have been a parody of religion in the name of religion. And actually the God we believe in, I pity him. He has so many spokespersons who don't even understand him, but they speak for him. So that is the problem we have. Anyway, thank you very much. Just
Shall we hear from Frank now?
It's the envelope there. I don't know how they pronounce it, which means to unfold. You know, it's the envelope, something like that, to unfold something. Now, diversity, it can be negative as well, you see. So when you talk about Africa developing, it is developing. Whether it's going backwards or... Well, maybe that's a stretch of the expression. Nobody believes in God. you only believe in the scriptures that you read, and that is it. You see? So I'm not going to waste my time going into that discussion. What I'm going to do is to take you a little bit further to the scientists and start with the basic building block of the cosmos, which is carbon. We are all made of carbon, and carbon takes on different forms. The living form of carbon is called melanin. It is also called black matter when it is in the cosmos. It is called chlorophyll when it is in plants, and very many other names in different. For people who have an abundance of melanin, they feel a real sense of connectedness with the cosmos because it is the same substance as they are. Those who have a deficiency of melanin feel an estrangement with the cosmos. Preparation of the land before you introduce the seeds. So, the purpose of doing that is to ensure that the seeds have life. So in my view, the only thing that can be called culture is that thing which prepares for the sustenance of life. Anything that doesn't is an anti-culture. I am, and everything else is just a thing, you see? So the mentality of people who are estranged or who feel lost is everything beyond them is a thing which needs to be controlled or it becomes a danger to them. The great plane of being starts with plants as the most basic of creatures. Plants are eaten by insects, so insects have a role to dominate plants. Small mammals eat insects, so the small mammals have a role to dominate. Then bigger mammals eat the smaller mammals, smaller animals, anyway, let's not call them mammals. Smaller animals, so they have dominion over them. Then human beings have dominion over animals. Then among the human beings, there are also stratifications. The lowest stratum of human existence is what is called the brute. Now, if you're wondering who a brute is, don't wonder too much because they are seated all around you. You see? Now, our friend, what's his name? Darwin takes it a step further and calls it evolution. And this is how evolution works. It feeds into the system called racism. Okay, let me not talk about evolution, let me talk about racism. Because many people think racism is just an attitude. Racism is not an attitude. Racism is a system. And it is designed to protect the people who are an anti-culture that creates systems that fight against nature from the ravages of fighting against nature. How does racism work? According to, among other people's theories, he's not the only one, even Galton and his eugenics, human beings are evolving from lesser animals, from apes. However, they are not all fully evolved at the same rate. There are different stages of evolution. And when you observe the human population, you shall notice that there are certain people who have certain similarities, and those people are at the same level of evolution. Now, we, the Africans, are closer to the ape, and are thus the lowest level of evolution, followed by what they call the Mongolians, who would be the Chinese and the Japanese, followed by, I think the Indians or the Aryans, whatever they call those idiots. Then you're followed by the highest society. The most evolved human being, ironically, is a blonde-haired, blue-eyed, pale-skinned human being, an albino. The least melanated creature on the planet is the most evolved human being, which is an irony because this planet is not designed for anything without melanin. Yes, thank you very much. I have come to, well, I'm being given 3 minutes here, which is ironic because I have come to the end of my thing. Okay, now this is what comes out of the racism societies: a need to control, cause of the idea of scarcity. The idea of scarcity is very real. Nature is a threat to us. There is not enough of it. There is too much of it. The aspects are, so everything has to be controlled, codified, and so on and so forth. So, it is important that when we sit down and begin to have discussions about religion, we make the distinction between religion, quote unquote, and spirituality. Everybody here is talking about how religious Africans are religious people. They are very spiritual, which is why there is no conflict between going to the Msanize, going to the Sheikh, and then you go to Rabbi, and then you go to Pastor, and then you go. There is no contradiction at all. Because they all claim to be aspiring to God, which is what I want. I want to talk to God, not to talk to Jesus Christ or Allah or whoever else it is that I want to go to. Omutozi Namugereka. The Ancient of Days is the one that I want to have access to. So whoever is going to facilitate my arriving at the Ancient of Days, that is whom I am going to be talking to. Which is unfortunate because we don't need facilitation. Yeah, Africa's view versus the rest. Someone mentioned something about, I'm just going to make a few remarks here, how similar Hinduism is to Africans in the sense that they have a sense of interconnectedness. Nothing is similar to Africa. Everything is from Africa, is all Africa. Whether it is, this is scriptures, I'm not even going to touch those. Scriptures, every single scripture that you will ever read is a bastardization of African knowledge. Finished. Finished. And I challenge any of you to come and challenge me on that one. Go and do your research for 25 years, then you come and tell me, Archibald, we have found this to be untrue. Whether it is the Vedas, which the Hindus co-opted, or the Quran, which is only a few, it's not even 100 years old, or the Bible, which is a compilation. A compilation. People came with 500 books and began to select, okay, this one yes, this one no, this one first wait a bit. Bishops were killed and chased out of their countries because they refused to accept the compilations that were being given to them. Augustine, the final authority on this document, wrote a letter to the Romans telling them, you idiots are sending us documents which we have had for 3,000 years and you've not even done a good job at compiling them. What's this nonsense you're giving me? So I don't think I should say anything more now. I have blasphemed enough.
Okay, so thank you very much. We shall now hear from Dr. Chimera and then we'll proceed to the next level.
To make a contribution. Let me also add my definition of religion. For me, I understand religion as a process of trying to understand the supernatural forces and acquiring the characteristic ways through which a man reacts to his immediate environment. It's just a process. That's point number one. My second point is religion and development. Religion does not inspire development. It makes a contribution to development. That's what I strongly believe. And religion enables man and woman to produce faith. And faith brings determination, two ingredients which are needed for development, or which are necessary for development. Finally, Mr. Chairman, I want to briefly talk about religion and development using an acronym called diversity. Just look at the word diversity. The first letter is D. So religion is there to make us discipline, to enable us to have discipline. And discipline is very important and key in development. And by the way, religion is a basis for spiritual development. For me, I want to agree with the previous speakers that spirituality is different from religion. Personally, I'm spiritual, not religious. The two are completely different, though they complement each other.
Discipline. Anyway, yeah, let me continue. So discipline too is information. We have always desired to have information. So religion helps people to have information, to exchange information. And I think that's very critical. 3 is vision. I think religion, one of the presenters said that many African religions promote child sacrifice. That is not true. You know, we have counterfeit religions. So everything has a counterfeit. So you can't say some, because in African, if you read Professor Mbiti's writings, there is nowhere he talks of African religion encouraging the sacrifice of children. That is totally not true. So Africans, as my brother said, are specifically spiritual, not religious. 3, religion also helps us to be visionary. I think that is another important contribution of religion. The E is enterprising. You have talked of personality and whatever. Yes, religion helps us to be entrepreneurs. It helps us to understand business dynamics. What is wrong with that? What is wrong with that? Respect. It is in a religion where we respect human dignity. And any religion which does not respect human dignity is a false religion. Yes. Definitely we have true and false religion. I'm talking mainly of African religion. Service. Religion encourages us to offer service, and service is part of development, isn't it? And interest. Religion helps you to have interest in something, to be focused. Religion helps people to have, to work in teams. And when we work in a team, we're making contribution to what? To development. And people have already recognized the importance of religion as far as development is concerned. And finally, I think religion, you know, how you define religion, or you define spirituality, determines your what? Your destiny. So religion helps us to yield, to produce. So ladies and gentlemen, that's my contribution as far as religion.
Yes, madam.
Okay, my point. Okay, I'm Nakato Lewis, and I have a question. I want to put. Why is it not that you talk about the Jewish religion? You never, not one of you have mentioned the Jewish religion. And the other thing, when we talk about religions, the white religions, because I consider all white religions other than the one that's here. Why is it that you don't mention the fact that when the white man came to Africa, he came with the Bible and the gun? This is control. This is control. They know they come into a very spiritual place. They know they come to very spiritual people. They know they can control you by religion. That is how they do it. This is why Africa is underdeveloped. That's the one. The only other thing I want to bring up is the fact about women. You talk about religion, but you or let's just say that even in the Catholic, I'm Catholic. I was raised Catholic. I'm Catholic now. I was raised Catholic. I'm also a scientist. Okay, but I will say this: when it came to in India now, they have a thing about raping women. The Muslims, they rape women as a means of war. Okay, so come on, y'all. This is what you aspire to. You see these little boys being the pedophiles, are priests. This is what you're worshiping. This is what who could tell? That can't tell me anything. It can't tell me anything. I've known too many altar boys that has been assaulted by a priest. I remember coming up. Hey, all hands. This is why I stopped being Catholic. Alright? Because you cannot be a man of God and preach God to me and do these things. And I see in Uganda everybody is following every Sunday. Oh, my gosh. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, shall we have going to abroad?
Thank you very much, Gabrielano. And brothers and sisters, good to see you one more time. This topic, I remember we talked about it. But before I take off, I want to introduce myself. My names are, my title is Fiavinchu, and my real name is Kojo Ablodi. I'm Fiavinchu because I'm a prince, and I'm Kojo because I'm born on a Monday, and I'm a male from where I come from. Ablodi in my language means freedom, and I take all of that. It's interesting, Africans discussing religion, but I just want to give you some little background. On the west coast in the West African sub-region where I come from, the largest slave castle is in a place called Elmina in Ghana. It started as a church. It became a trading center, then became a slave castle. That is information for you. The other religions we are talking about, the truth of the matter is that none of it is African. Who are we and who are we talking? We are Africans discussing religion. What religion are we talking about? Whose religion? From where? What are we talking about? Which one have we talked about that has its origins from where we come from? I belong to my family, my father and my mother, and their parents, and their parents, and their parents, and their parents. I have no other identity beyond the identity I have for my family. I can never become a Roman, neither a Catholic, nor a Muslim, or anything else. I'm a black man. I belong to my family, and that's it. What are we talking about, brothers and sisters? It's high time we wake up. Let's begin to be honest with ourselves. What religion has done to us is to stop us from reasoning. Reasoning begins with asking questions. Why are we not questioning the things we are doing? Why are we just accepting everything the way they come to us? What is the intention of the religions that were brought to us? The first slaves that were taken from the West Coast, that started the transatlantic slave trade, were taken by priests, missionaries, who wanted to take them up there to Portugal and try to convert them so they come back to Africa and preach. Whose message? My grandfather's message. That is my message. Not a message from there. That began the whole slave trade. Are you getting me? We are not stupid people. We built pyramids without cranes. What's wrong with us? We irrigated the Nile Valley we did it. Yeah, we even to make it disappear. Your action will be directed essentially to the younger ones, for they will revolt when the recommendation of the priests is contradictory to their parents' teachings. The children have to learn to obey what the missionary recommends, who is the father of their soul. You must singularly insist on their total submission and obedience. Avoid developing the spirit in the schools. Teach students to read and not to reason. I haven't read all of it, but tell me which of these statements that were made in 1883 that are not with us today?
Absolutely.
Which one?
Absolutely.
Which one?
None of them.
The purpose of religion is simple. The religion we are talking about, number one, is a dogma. It is man-made. It is not of us black people. It is not in our interest. Our continent was divided not because of us, the human beings, but because of the plenty that is in our underground. Simply because of our resources. I have no other identity. There is no way Kojo Ablodi can become a Roman, nor a Catholic. There is no way a Kojo Ablodi can become a John, like my brother there, nor a Moses. From where? If your name does not come from your language, it is not your name. If your name does not have a meaning to you, it is not your name. God is not stupid to give you a name, to give you a language. God is not stupid to give you this skin color. But remember, this is the only skin type that can survive any climate on this earth. When we say Eastern Europe, we are talking about the East. When we say the West, we are talking about America. Where is the center of the world? Africa has fed the whole world for centuries, and we are still feeding the world. The price of our coffee is fixed in London. Why? Because we have become so religious. You don't complain. You don't ask questions. In religion, you don't ask questions, so that they can continue to take our resources away. Our relationship with Europe is basically about resources. Let's begin to teach our children about our resources. Our school systems have taught us to run away from our land, where the gold and the diamonds and everything is, and we are in the streets looking for what to do. God save us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm called Irascible Rosaline, though I may not be sure what Rosaline is, but that one does not matter. According to me, I have heard what the presenters talked about, what the other gentleman talked about, that religion is not our thing, which is true, but we have to come back to reality. This is something that has been imposed on us. And if we are to develop, because we are looking at religion with development, if we are to develop, because if you walk up today and say that all churches are to be closed, all mosques are to be closed, Uganda would be on fire. So what can we do as Africans to get out the religion that was imposed on us, to get out what can develop us? I think that is the challenge that we have. What can we get out of that religion? Because it is not a matter of taking whatever that is there, taking it up. But if you looked at the trends like in Uganda currently, churches are everywhere. People are following whatever they can get. The problem now becomes, what are the church leaders doing, or the religious leaders doing to develop this country or to develop this continent? I think that is where the problem is. Because this thing is not just going to wake up and it is off. Yes, we can try to change the trends, but it is not that it is going to wake up and define that, okay, the religion is no more, and now Africans, we are going to get our own things to believe. So I think as we shun it, we also need to look at where it has got us and where we are. Thank you so much.
So Oyaka.
Thank you very much, Gavirano, and I greet you all, my dear brothers and sisters. When you're talking about religion, I've been listening very carefully to everyone that has spoken, and just want to give something brief. There's a book that I've been looking through, and it's entitled Introduction to African Civilization. It's by John G. Jackson. And one of the things that he says is that at one point, Europeans believed that the world began in around 4004 BC. One even went boldly to say that the world began on October 23rd, 4004 BC at 9 a.m. So the question that I have, and a brother of mine echoed it some time ago, he said, but what happened at 8 a.m. on that day? And I'm not sure whether this man could answer this question. But his reason for putting this in this book was to say, okay, that was known then. Now, when you discover fossils of a human being that are 2 million years old, what do you say then? If a person tells you, I can trace my ancestry to hundreds of thousands of years from today using DNA, now what will you say then? So the conflict is that
for most of us, for most religious people, they would shun the new knowledge that has come in instead of embracing this or investigating this that has come in. And I think this for me is key. A very famous spiritualist who has been here with us at one time, not famous, to me anyway, said that it is important for us to understand instead of just believing. I think someone mentioned it here. For me, this is what I believe. And the problem with belief is that it shuts off the mind from understanding this which it's trying to believe. For example, when I was still a very religious person, I asked one time a reverend, I was still a very young boy, I said, but you say that Adam and Eve were the first people on earth, right? They give birth to Cain and his brother Abel, and later Seth came in after they had mourned Abel. Then they say that Cain went to the nearby village and got a wife. So if they were the first people on earth, where did this wife come from? But the answer is not given. Okay, you will bring it. Yes, you may say it is given, but not in a way that makes sense to me, if you are to believe the story. So my understanding today now, after having gained a little bit of more knowledge, is that one, there is a knowledge pool about our existence here on earth. And so many people have tried to reason and say, how did we come into existence? Which is a legitimate question. How does everything connect? And as my brothers mentioned, something about melanin is that that sense of connectedness with all nature comes in. And therefore the discovery of some deep knowledge, for example, like the earth is a sphere, is possible when you aspire to a certain level of knowledge, and therefore this knowledge is revealed to you. And some of these whom this knowledge is revealed to, unfortunately, have been turned into gods. Why? Because people did not understand this that they were saying, and then they began to say, oh, this is beyond us, therefore this must be a god. So for me, and I would encourage every single one of us, it is important for us to understand that this knowledge that has been turned into religion, that professors called parodies, that are Christianity, that are Islam, that are the Jewish religion my sisters talked about, they are perversions of ancient knowledge gathered for so many thousands of years that were taken, misunderstood, misinterpreted, and then used as a weapon of control for human beings. So if you can, try as much as possible to learn all these things that have been revealed. Put them together and get an understanding of who you are, why you are here. But very most importantly, start from home. And this is something that the spiritual is told you. Start from your very own home. How do your own people, I am Oyaka, I'm a proud member of the Lango nation. How do the Langi understand their existence? The Langi talk about Jok, and this is something that in Luo is common in Luo. Jok are the gods, or God. Then we also believe in the ancestors, especially those that lived a life that enabled them to ascend to a position where they can guide us on life. Then there are the elders. In my culture, actually, which now has been perverted, if I gave birth to a son or daughter with my wife, I did not have the right to name that child. It had to be an elder, most probably my father or my mother, to name this child. In my society, the grandmother had a role to play in deciding who the spouse of their grandchild would be. It was not just up to you to say, oh, I love this person, and so on and so forth, and etc. And if you see most radio stations today, you hear some of the stories that I talked about, and they're asking for opinions of people who have been married for 6 months, and I found that my husband does this and that, who have been married for 2 months, and I found out this about my husband and wife. When it was time of love, you know, some of these things were ignored. But the elders know some of these things. So some of this has been lost. So we must connect all these things. We have melanin. Connect them. Do not just get stuck in the cocoon or the box of Christianity and say everything else is of the devil. No, it is knowledge. Thank you very much.
This subject which we are discussing now is not new to many of us. It's one of the debates we used in our time of schooling, either senior or Makerere or anywhere. Even up to now we are here exchanging views exactly how things began. Even life is said. Many people have asked me a lot of questions according to what I have done in any case. You are saying all these things, but how did they come? Up to human being, how the human being begin here on earth. The earth, you know what it is. Round, like an egg, in any case. There are mountains, rivers, and whatever. So the way we are, you will find that some people are brown, other people are black, other people are white, absolutely white. And it is even said that a human being began in Mount Kilimanjaro. I don't know whether some of you agree to it or you don't agree, but that's how I was taught. The behavior of the people, the way we live, and whatever. Now for me, I say, thank you very much for organizing this. We have a lot to do. Believe me and join me. I don't know how long I'm reigning on earth. Pick it up and take the spirit forward, especially you who are still young. We are talking about differences in religion and beliefs, even a human being. Let's take the philosophy. Okay. People we think are backward, do not understand, make them understand what Africa must be. Thank you very much.
Shall we have water?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I found Dr. Nkawahona's presentation very, very enriching, especially to me, who is a practicing Catholic. I agree with him entirely. Yes.
It's converted.
I do not. I agree with. I find his presentation was very, very balanced. It was accurate. It was very objective. He gave it from a purely academic point of view. So he assessed the role of religion. He gave what we should expect of religion. First of all, I do not believe that a religion in itself is a bad thing. It isn't. It is people who misuse it and abuse it who are bad, not religion. When he was speaking here, because I knew maybe he was not going to get a chance to respond when he talked about LGBT, about some religions preaching hatred against the homosexuals. I disagreed with him. I've never seen it anywhere in the Bible. I do not know whether it is written in the Quran. Here in Uganda, majority of us who are practicing believers are either Christians or we are Muslims. What does it say?
It says not name. It gives a list of people that you can't have sex with, and one of them is a person of the same sex.
Yes, but does it preach hatred?
Including animals.
I've actually read that. I've read that chapter in the Bible. The animals that you should not eat, the things that you should not do, but it does not preach hatred against those people. I tolerate and I respect my brother. The issue of the views that he holds. My brother Katomukasa, my long time friend, since the days of the Chimeza in 2001, 2002. I really sympathize with him. I respect his views, but I disagree with him respectfully. I do not believe that there is any religion anywhere on earth that preaches you go and hate your neighbor, go and do. The terrorism these days is ubiquitous. It is more omnipresent, maybe. If I was to use the words of Tajuddin, is more omnipresent these days than God. But Fethullah Gulen, who has been ranked the leading intellectual in the world's leading intellectual, Fethullah Gulen, is a sheikh, is a preacher, in Islam. Fethullah Gulen has produced so many intellectual works, and you need to read the works of Fethullah Gulen. Fethullah Gulen says terrorism. There's no Muslim who can be a terrorist, and there's no terrorist who can be a Muslim.
Shall we have Ivan? I think this one came earlier. Yeah. Let's have Jamzi followed by Ivan.
Why Pan-Africanism came up as a concept? Because as Africans, we have always faced an inferiority complex. And actually, if someone came here just like they are Catholics and just like Muslims put on their garb, if someone wanted some good Pan-Africanists here just by way of looking, there would be 3 people here, these 2 elder Rastafari, and my brother Archibald. So, what I'm saying is, as Africans, we don't have, because you see, all great societies have their own religions. Religion is a way of manipulating the mind. But Africans don't have an original religion. And the only religion we can claim to have, which has some authenticity and which is somehow spread all over Africa and among all blacks, is Rastafarianism. But unfortunately, people haven't taken it and they don't give it the due respect it deserves. And lastly, okay, as I quit, I want to thank my brother Archibald for what he has been saying. I didn't know as blacks we have also gotten to the level where we can also have philosophy that can confuse religiously. But one thing that I want to clear is, as humanists, because I'm a humanist, we don't promote and we don't say that homosexuality is good. But using his very words, in fact, he has helped the debate that homosexuals are natural. They just don't have enough melanin, and that's why they're anti-culture. Now, if it's so, that's what he says. Now, if it is so, it means these people's predicament isn't of their own making. So what we say, if these people's predicament isn't of their own making, should we criminalize it? That is all we are saying. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So I'm encouraging.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairperson. My name is Ivan Nshabire. I'm a medical personnel. Yeah, Nshabire means I prayed. I'm a Christian. So my approach is based on a Christian ground. Things to do with supernatural power. If we are to have such a debate, assuredly we cannot draw the conclusion. But most interestingly, I have some people I'm going to talk about. Some big people who were prominent some time back, and they were boldly communicating, like how my friend Mr. Mukasa has been talking, like how my brother there has been talking, and one of them is Mr. The late Tegredo Naves. The late Tegredo Naves contested to be the president of Brazil in 1985. While during the campaign, he said, if my party can give me 500,000 votes, not even God would take me away from presidency. That gentleman got the votes. Then he won definitely. A day towards his inauguration, he died. Another good example is John Lennon, a singer, a poet. This singer poet said that his band, the Beatles, were more pronounced, more influential than Jesus Christ. They said, in fact, that Christianity was going to disappear because they were coming up as Beatles. After some time, he was shot 6 bullets and he died.
By the opposition.
Then another example is in Campinas in Brazil. Another example is in Campinas in Brazil. A group of friends took a lot of alcohol and then went to pick some other friend of theirs. When they reached at that girl's home, they opened the door and then she was going with them. But remember, they were very, very drunk. So the mother to that girl escorted them and reached in the car and told them, my daughter, you go with God. Let God protect you. Then that girl said, if God can go in a trunk, because us inside the vehicle, we are full. 4 hours later, after their journey, an accident was reported that it had taken place.
So in the conclusion,
it had taken place. So they found that all those people died. All those people died, and in the trunk of the car, there was a tray of eggs, and none of the eggs was destroyed. So some of us who are talking about that, anyway, in conclusion, it was discussing about role of religion involvement. If we cannot actually see the contribution of religion towards development in our country, then let's first examine ourselves. Our own contribution can tell. Thank you very much.
So, members, shall we agree that each will use 1 minute? Because otherwise,
I am doing the work of God.
The word of God is unquestionable. And I'm delightful that you use the word religion, because religion is not God. Religions were formations by human beings trying to bring forward what they thought was the word of God. But God is real. I went so down here when people were trying to make God again. God is real, like my brother has just said. Kindly talk against any religion, but don't say God is not there, because He's there. Don't confuse religion with God. When the Bible was being made, there are those, because the word of God says all scriptures are inspired by God. There was a group that wanted scriptures to be written down, and then there was the Roman Empire that wanted to destroy those who are bring forward the scriptures. God is real, and in Genesis, they say in the beginning was the Word, and the Word is God. When my brother over there said that you do not believe in God, but the scriptures, this Genesis verse says in the beginning there was the Word, and the Word is God. So we believe the Word, and then we believe God. So to say that scriptures are not, the Word of God is not God, you're going against the Word of God. As my brother has said, God is real. And I implore all of you to honor your Creator, not to mix religion with God, for God is real. He's in charge of our lives. He can let us live or die. He can make us prosper or become poor. He can give us riches or can make us poor. Kindly, God is real.
Okay,
that's my conclusion.
Recently, Chairman, first of all, I think it has been a cordial discussion, because in a democracy like Uganda, this is very healthy and all people are civilized. But I humbly beg you, Chairman, that next time, try to accommodate all sides. Yes. Because I kind of, you see, for me, I'm a Democrat and I'm a very honest person. I realize there's been a lot of bias. The heathens against the Christians, and that kind of thing. Nevertheless, I think, nevertheless, in a democracy like that of Uganda, I think that the discourse is very, very. I think he has.
No, that is his
view. You will correct him. Because I think his concept is different.
Democracy is giving people the permission to call other people characters that they are not. Then that's not democracy.
Okay, you will respond to that comment. Chairman, one of the greatest discoveries in science, actually of recent, as you all know, concerning the divisibility of particles in science is actually nanotechnology. So in other words, every time you talk of science, it is not definitive. You know, there are always discoveries and the subsequents therein. And what is amazing that even prior to nanotechnology, all these famous founding fathers in science, founding fathers, all master architects, like Albert Einstein, the theory of relativity, and of course the famous Isaac Newton, and in the law of gravity, they were Christians, and of course other So the point is, you see, you need to actually read their theoretical works. So the point is, when you talk of science per se, it accommodates all variations. whether somebody is an atheist, whether somebody is a Christian, whether somebody is a Muslim. So in other words, for any intellectual to think that, the variables of science do not accrue to the belief in God, that is intellectual bankruptcy, and I think we should really correct it at that. Certainly, Chairman, you see, when you talk of the Christianity I know, whether little or not, is premised on actually agape. Actually, in fact, Jesus Christ stated it clearly that love actually surpasses the law and the prophets. So, in other words, like my brother said, let us have also the light of revelation and actually understanding the Asian tigers. Yes, I'm trying to wind up. The Asian tigers, Mr. Mukasakato. You see, empirically, we cannot correlate religion to scientific development. But one thing for sure we all know, that the Asian tigers, if you lift the veil behind all this great transformation, they have their so-called small gods. Not that their gods equate to scientific development, but still even those so-called affluent and developed nations, against your criticism of black Africa, still they have religion. So the best thing is spirituality and the light of revelation.
Okay. Thank you very much. You are second last.
Thank you very much. Just to be quick, we are all discussing religion. I don't even know this word, but there are so many definitions. Some call it the opium of the mind. Some call it the identification of people's culture, and I believe in that. And of course, they say there are two institutions where you don't use common sense. One is the military, the second is religion.
Just a brief comment. My name is Mwene Afrod and I'm a website developer, really. Yeah, I've liked this whole debate kind of thing. Let me first react to Mr. Oyaka's question where you were saying that whole Adam kind of whole thing, but I wanted to inform you that the Bible just looks at Jesus as the major character. So everything they build up from the start is just about pointing towards the line of Jesus Christ. So they don't mind about these other lines that really come in here. So the other stuff is quite, I'll engage more into that really. But what I really wanted us to kind of dissect very well is that we should try to differentiate the difference between religion and really spirituality really. This whole thing of religion is just man-made really. I mean, whether it's a Muslim, he has their ideas, they hold virtue to themselves, and they are true to that. Even Christians, the same really. Even the witch doctors, they have the right to believe whatever they really believe in really. But my thing, it's supposed to be more spiritual. That's like understanding nature and being at unity with real nature. I mean, that's the whole thing. I mean, if you can connect with your brother, with your sister, with climate change, everything, I mean, that's the whole essence. These other things, the religion and the Bibles and everything, they should, we should come from the spiritual aspect into them and not the other way around. Yeah, that's just a simple comment.
Okay, so I want to disagree with my brother Mark Moore, who are entirely relying on the idea of religion and spirituality as the mastermind of human misery. No. That is what he said. No. Because he exclusively said Columba went there.
Well, he did.
On the basis of
he did.
Does the name make you what?
One word.
Make up your mind.
I am a descendant of a slave. I am descendant, and they justified making us slaves. Okay. Religion justified it. Religion justified it. Religion said you were slaves. Religion said you were slaves. My goodness, you were a slave too. You were too.
Shall we have our...
He opens it up. We're going to have 3 more people. Let me allow everybody when we get
Now, after this fire, let us now get called from the rest.
Thank you, moderator. I have taken a lot of notes that I would have responded to, but I think at this stage I want to take this opportunity first and foremost once again to thank you for inviting me to come and participate in this wonderful debate. You have been such a wonderful audience, a mixture of young and old. So they are here. And I want to appreciate and say thank you to my co-presenters. They have been very intellectual presentations. I come from an academic institution, most of you have been there. What we appreciate in academia is free speech and expressing your own views as you think fit or researched information. What has come out of this discussion? I think she mentioned it about knowledge. You have mentioned about knowledge. You mentioned about St. Augustine, the intellectual of Africa. Actually, St. Augustine defined faith as fides queres intellectum, faith seeking understanding. Try to understand what you believe. But I know in this audience there are also people who don't believe. And we want to respect or believe different. And we want to respect those positions. So on that note, let's all of us seek knowledge. And as the quotation, somebody talked about quotations. Someone says, know the truth and the truth will set you free. Once again, thank you very much.
I discovered that in this August house, I think about 90%, if not 95%, are really religious. About 95% are really religious, though they may not be so much into religion, or they honor God, if I can put it that way, which is not a crime anyway. Now, I had a problem with him, especially when he talked about the anti-culture, and then he's trying to talk about homosexuality. I know this is a very controversial topic, and I still insist that when you want to blackmail others, when you want to kill others, discriminate others, and I'll come back to you, my brother Nwagao, when you say, it's not anywhere in the Bible, I'll ask you about Sodom and Gomorrah. What happened in that Bible? In that very, very unserious book, where you kill the whole generation because of a few people. Now, whether it's a fact, it's another question. Because again, we always ask, Oyaka, we always ask the authenticity of that so-called Bible you are following. Actually, the question comes whether Jesus Christ existed or not, or even whether God exists or not. That's why I'm an atheist. I'm a sure one who doesn't believe that these things are true.
Maybe I should take it to the
Now, lastly, on Mr. Archibald, because of time, I agree with you when you say that religion is a social science. And again, if you actually, because you are trying to say that those people who are no longer now following this kind of fallacy, the dogmas, are also inventing their science. And I'm saying, so let it be. If some of us are not going to believe in religion and in science, let us worship that science if it's going to help us move forward. Now, the lady from has given us her background, and that's the facts. That's how religion was so bad. Because if you watch these movies, if you read these books, it's all about religion that is making us slaves, making us kings, making us all that. Somehow, religion has a hand in it. Finally, you point out about something which was very interesting, which I read in my history books, the flag for the cross. That was what some of you read history, you remember this thing. You bring a flag, which means administration, which means power, the cross, which means the Bible. So this religious thing, this Bible thing, which I asked the authenticity, still has a lot of questions which you must ask. The lady talked about the church and the mosque, and was asking me whether I'm proposing to ban these things. Can we do away with churches? Can we do away with mosques? No, I'm saying no. We need them. But my challenge with them is that they are indoctrinating our children and including us. Let them allow us to reason for ourselves. I want to ask the accountability of the tithe I give every Sunday. You give that? I have to ask whether God is keeping this money for himself or for the rest of us. So, these are the questions we're asking. Don't cross them, they help us. They're important. But what type of education are they giving? If God is all having, he's all rich, what does he want with money? You know? Those are the questions we're asking. And finally, Al-Sabiri, who has gone, talked about the name himself. Actually, those stories are called the death infidel stories. They were saying that if some of us who don't believe in God die, they're creating stories that actually died as religious people. These are stories written everywhere, the miracles, as if a man can walk on water. Who can walk on water as he just did? Therefore, was Jesus very special if he was a man at all? So, now, finally, Isaac Newton, I want to disagree seriously, was not religious. Seriously, unless you don't know history. It was not. It was not. And someone came here and told us that Isaac Newton was actually a Christian. Who told you that? Just better go and research and find out about these things called science. Finally, the books themselves have a problem, as we have said. The Quran, the Bible, is a professor in this area. They have problems because, one, we cannot clearly authentify them. Number two, they discriminate between women and men. I said so and I repeat it. If a religion is discriminating a woman against a man, is a fake one. I thank you.
Thank you very much. In a short time, I wish to, in a big way, thank our presenters for the job and for enabling us achieve our objective of gathering here to make policy. Let's clap for them.